Hey folks, John with A&J Outdoors, and today we're going to be working on that. So if you follow my other social media accounts, you've seen that on our way back from the coast, we lost the hub here. And so now I've got to put a new hub on it. That's how we rigged it, just to get it home, right? It was already still running on 2 axles, and that wasn't an issue. But I got to take all that apart. The bearing race for the inner bearing is still there, so I got to get that off. The surfaces for the bearings look good. I'm going to clean everything up and emery cloth it and see what it's really like. So that's what we're going to do next. Stand by. All right, well, inner race had a little chip in it that I was able to pry up and get it off. So now we need to clean all that up, hit it with the emery cloth, and then we can start the process of reinstalling the new hub. Hey, so I'm about to get work on this, and hey, if you need some good gloves, I'll put a link to these guys down below. You can see their textures so you can still grip stuff. I'm old school. I'm old, so that's why I'm old school. But I never wore gloves working on anything, you know. Hands get cut up, they get cut up. If you get dirty, you know, after a week or so, it eventually wears off your skin, you know what I mean? So, but now that I'm getting older, I'm trying to be a little better about keeping my hands clean and stuff. So, I'm gonna wear these bad boys. Let's go. All right, so we hit it with some gum out parts cleaner. It looks a little better. There's some rough edges here and there that I gotta work on before we finish, or before we're ready to ever put the new hub on. Something that's gonna help me out with that. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but it's got different grits. They're rolls, right? Very easy to use. Just pull off what you need. Easy to work with. If you guys want to get some of that, I'll put it in a link down in the description below. Check it out. But let's see how this stuff works. This is kind of boring stuff. I'm going to hit some of that stuff with the heavy grit first. You do need scissors to cut this stuff. Some kind of good cutter. And I didn't bring my scissors out with me, so I'm going to use my wire cutters. Yeah, I know you can't see what I'm doing. Hey, I'm a professional here. Photographer, videographer, right? That's the term. All right, so let's start with the back. All right, so this, I'm going to go into some real basics on the spindle and the hub stuff. So if you're expert, skip forward. You don't need to pay attention to this, but this is more for those folks who thinking maybe I'll do it. I'm going to try it myself. What do I got to worry about? So let's look at it. So this is the spindle, right? And so you have bearings, outer bearings that'll sit here, inner bearings that'll sit here. You got a very important seal back here on the back of it. And then of course there's a seal to the front. This is a kind of an open space in between. So if you're looking at your spindle and you see some nicks and dings in this area, it's not too critical. You know, I like cleaning it up. You can see I've knocked some stuff off. This area is pretty important because that's where the bearing races are going to sit, those 2 spots. And then for me, the most important spot is this area back here where that outer seal sits. It's not going to go all the way back here, but that's the space for it. So I'm going to clean that up all the way back to make sure it sits there, okay? These are good spindles. They've got, you see a Zerk fitting here. That's where you hook your grease gun and grease it. But understand that grease is coming out back here where that rear seal is, right? So it's going to throw grease in the area back here. It's not greasing the bearings per se, and it's definitely not greasing these bearings. So you still, when you install it, you need to pack the bearings real well, right? Because you're putting the grease in them. That grease is going to be there until you pull them out again. You can add grease here, like I said, and it'll refresh at the back there, but it won't move up to the other bearings, okay? So it's important to pack them well. And then what I haven't done, which I should have done, because these hubs are all just 3 years old, and it's only, I probably put less than 500 miles, less than 300 miles on this trailer. But going in and out of saltwater, I should have checked them before we left on this last trip. And they'd probably been okay if I just repacked them. So lesson learned, lesson I thought I learned already, but So now I got to do, I'm going to, even though these ones didn't go bad on me, I'm going to pull all the hubs and re-grease all the bearings. But that's a whole nother exercise. So that's your spindle. That's what you need to worry about. Let's continue on. All right, getting ready to put some grease on this bad boy. And we'll bring the hub and bearing set out here, put it all together. Always use a marine grade grease, right? It has some special additives that helps it fight the bad stuff. And don't be chintzy with it, right? Don't be worried about, oh, and if you get grease on the threads here, oh, won't the nut back itself off? No, you got a cotter pin going through that holds the nut where it's at. So you just want to grease, especially where that seal is going to go, because you don't want to put the seal on and ding it up while you're putting it on. All right, pretty good coating, and then we'll come back and we'll put more grease. This hub set I bought, I'm kind of first time I'm trying this. I usually hand grease my bearings, pack them and all that. This set comes already greased, already put together. Basically, you slide it on and you're done. So we'll take a look at it and decide. I'm probably going to want to put more grease in it, but we'll see. All right, so this is what this one comes looking like. It's got a cap on both ends. So pull those caps off. All right, so that's the back side, and that's that rear seal, and the rear bearing race is right there. So the rear bearing is just inside of it, right? And then on the front side, pull that cap off, and you can see the front bearing right there. Now, you can see the grease is pushed up through it, so that's good. That means they got grease all the way through the bearing, but I always add more grease to all that. The only caution about adding more grease that I have is the grease expands when it heats up, right? And so if you keep, like, say you take your boat to the water a couple times a month and you keep adding grease every time you do that, not a great idea, because you can put too much grease in here, and then as it heats up, it'll actually blow that rear, or it can blow that rear seal out, right? And we don't want that happening. So you definitely don't want to add grease every single time if you're using the boat multiple times a month. All right, let's see how this slides on. And she's on. Okay, you can see the front bearings came out a little bit. That's not unusual. So what we're going to do now is get the rest of the components that hold that thing in place. Tighten it good. It should turn, but it shouldn't like turn real easy or be wobbly at all. You want some stiffness to it. All right, these are the rest of the goodies that came with it. Of course, there's our nut to hold everything on. There's the washer, which is the next thing that goes on. The cotter pin that goes through the hole. Once you got the castle nut on there, that's what that nut's called, a castle nut. It goes through to keep it from coming back off loose, right? Then what you would call the hubcap, which is this guy here. And then that rubber piece pops out so you can access that grease point, right? So everything's together, you can still add grease to that hole. This guy can sometimes be a pain in the butt to put on. I don't use any special tools. I just put it on the best I can, and then I get a piece of wood and just tap it around until it starts. Once it starts, right, and you get level and started, it's no problem. But it's like if you tweak it, right, you can bend these a little bit, and you don't want to do that. So probably, other than cleaning everything up, the thing you got to be most careful about is getting that on right. All right, let's do it. Put that grease on my washer. Right, nothing wrong with having grease everywhere. Okay, so that guy goes there. And castle nut. And so what this will do is you tighten it. It'll pull the bearings, the bearing races, up into position where they belong, right? So you got to make sure. Don't just stop when, oh, it feels a little tight, right? You want to be able to, there should be no movement front to back on this thing, or side to side this way. And you definitely know it's not on tight enough when the castle nut's not even down to where it's going to meet everything else. So I know, get a wrench that'll fit that sucker. Usually you just use a big pipe wrench or one of those kind of wrenches. Let me get on that. Now, if you don't own a pair of these, I don't know if you even do any kind of mechanical stuff. Because this is the be-all, end-all when you ain't got what you really want. And it's just a tedious job of tightening this sucker on. Keep going. We'll save you guys the agony of watching me just turning this nut. We'll stop it now, and then when we get back, we'll turn it back on when I'm done with that. Alright, so I've tightened it down to where it's tight. It's hard to turn that, right? So what I want to do now is back the nut off a little bit, right? Loosen it so that I got my castle nut, the hole it's got to go through has to line up, or my cotter pin, I'm sorry. My cotter pin, right? The castle nut has to line up with the hole so I can put my cotter pin in that'll hold this all together, right? So get her nice and tight because that's seated everything. Everything's on there. Bearings, races are in their location where they belong. The seal's where it belongs. So now I back her off just enough so that I see my opening for my cotter pin. I made it real tight. Alright, so I've loosened it enough to where I can see where my cotter pin is going to go through the hole right here. It's a little tight, but it's not too tight to turn. And there's zero movement this way, right? You don't want any movement that way. That means everything's not set where it belongs. Your bearing race is so let's get our cotter pin in there. Sometimes it needs a little help. Okay. A little extra help. Alright. Then all we need to do, come here. We're going to get some needle nose pliers or the screwdriver, and we're just going to bend those out each way. Again, that holds the cotter pin from backing out. Cotter pin keeps the nut from loosening, so this should not come apart anymore. So let's see how well that works. Alright, that hubcap was a bear. I had to use first rubber mount, didn't work, then I got the hammer and a 2x4 and I, excuse me, ended up getting it on with that. When you're putting it on, you can see it's tight all the way around. This lip just comes up to the rim. If you ding this area here a little bit, don't worry about it. That little area does nothing. It's that inner piece that touches the rim that you don't want to ding because you don't want water to get in. And the opening for this, right, you don't want to ding that because this is a seal, right? If that's not good, if you don't have a good seal, water's going to get in here and it's going to get right in your hub. So, but yeah, that's a hub install, folks. So, do me a favor, you like this kind of stuff, I do a lot of it. I got a lot more to do, right? Because the motors, I got to replace some parts in the lower unit again. So stick around, hit that subscribe button down there. There's a little bell next to it. Hit that. You can set up notifications so you get a notification each time I upload a new video. It doesn't cost you nothing. And give me that thumbs up. It really helps with the algorithm getting my videos out there. Thumbs up. And if you want to comment, please ask questions. Tell me what I'm screwing up, right? Whatever it is, I reply to all of them. So, all right, folks. Till the next one. Peace out. All right, onward and upward with the boat works. So you see, got the lower unit out. This is the starboard. I know just by looking at it, turning it, that the prop shaft is bent.